Hey there, welcome to Drawing Expressions. I'm Parz. This is the third video that I have done for my Apothecaria-based episodic series, where I just read the story. We don't have any of the explanation bits that go into my usual videos. So this is going to take us from episode 11 through episode 14, which is basically the 2 episodes each for weeks 6 and 7. And yeah, I know, 6, 7. Just the way it worked out. So I hope you enjoy listening to what is here, and I'll talk to you on the other side. Okay. Until then, episode 11. Spring, week 6, cure episode. She'll be coming round the mountain. Sorry, what? How about this? Sit down, take a nice deep breath, then when you're ready, take it from the top. As Roger began to work through this calming exercise, I was able to take a minute to reflect on what had been, until his arrival, a lovely morning. I'd spent it quietly, starting with my now usual practice of sitting and breathing in front of the spirit house. Afterwards, I spent some time with the bees. They'd flown around me, landed on me, and gently swarmed me. Far from creepy, it was comforting, although their little gripper feet can be a bit much on bare skin. I was within that communion of companionship when this loud lout had burst upon the grounds. Thankfully, he was consistently loud, so I wasn't hurt by startled bees. At first, I'd tried to ask Roger about why he was here, but all he'd been doing is talking and acting out something that had happened somewhere. I was hoping he'd make more sense after taking a minute to settle. But in watching him try to sit quietly, it was clear there was something going on bodily. He just couldn't sit still. And what's more, odd movements kept happening. It was like watching something in a bag trying to get out. Despite that, he did quiet down and told me his story. You remember that I'm an adventurer, right? I approached you in the Copper Fox a few weeks ago and offered to guard you on your foraging journeys. Say, why haven't you ever hired me? I'm really good at guarding and guiding. I mean, yes, my armor is bits of what I can find to cover my important bits, but I'm saving up for a quality piece of leather. It's gonna be awesome. There's these trim pieces, red, it'll set it all off, and I held up my hand, hoping he'd stop talking. Again, yes, Roger, I remember you. I've been managing reagent gathering just fine, but I haven't forgotten your kind offer. And affordable, yes, affordable, but not needed by me to date. So why don't you tell me what brings you here? Right, yes, well, I was hired to take my my client, to Heroes Hollow. Okay. Who was your client? Oh, sorry, I have a strict policy of not revealing my clients' identities. Anyway, apparently there was a necromancer living in the dungeon, so we went in search of a reanimated skeleton. We had money to pay. Sigh. So the doctor was still in search of a living skeleton. So what happened? We made our way to where my client knew the necromancer lives, and we met this, I guess, person? Anyway, we got there. This person directed me to a room while the necromancer and my client conducted their business. There was so much cool stuff in the room. I swear I didn't hear anyone say anything about not stepping into the chalked star shape on the floor, but let me tell you, I heard about it right after I did it. The necromancer threw us out. My client was so angry. Anyway, there was some other stuff yelled back and forth, but I couldn't focus on it. Not that any of that stuff would have made sense to me, even if I'd been paying attention. Instead, I started feeling really weird. Like I wanted my body to do one thing, but things kept trying to move in weird ways. I mean, I'm a highly trained warrior. Reflexes that just snap, like a trap. Here, watch. I stood, politely, watching. I didn't care about his air sword attacks and air shield blocks, I guess you could call it. I watched as bones continued to move about in decidedly odd ways. It was as if his skeleton had become reanimated inside his body. Restless bones, the witch's book calls it. It's annoying to have, but doesn't progress beyond the bones trying to move independently. The muscles help to keep everything in check. Roger had just finished reenacting some sort of mythic battle where he was the sole survivor. I interrupted his victory speech. Roger, why didn't the doctor treat you? Well... I just raised my eyebrows, waiting for what was going to be a ridiculous answer. He said I have PNSD, post-necromancer stress disorder. He said I'll be fine in a few weeks, and he wanted to give me some pill or other for stress, but I told him that my body is a temple and that I can't pollute it with something that'll make me sluggish. Here, watch. I managed to get his attention before he began slaying vast numbers of dread enemies. I can make a potion. It'll take a bit, but I can do it. And it won't make you drowsy. Is that okay? That sounds great. Here, watch as I show you how I defeated the moose-headed minotaur. That's great. Yeah, just great. Say, how about I direct you to these trees over here? Yes, these trees. The trees that are a good ways away from the cottage and my beehive. Okay? I'm going to gather some things and head out. You can stay here until I'm back. And time passes. It's nice being out here. The peace, the quiet. No trying to chop down a tree using a twig. Mouse-Eye, perched on my shoulder, echoed what I'd been thinking. He continued, although it does seem a bit cruel to whack a living tree repeatedly with a piece of dead tree. I mean, trees have feelings too. I said, I do hope they have a good sense of humor. Mouse-Eye shrugged. I think they're rather uptight. How else can you grow so tall? We both had a good laugh. It felt good to be out, walking, enjoying the sun, the breeze, and the gentle odors that floated on it. Not to mention the mountain looming ahead of us. Somewhere up there was glitter snow, the product of snow absorbing the power within ley lines. Combined with a bit of wild rose, that lovely flower growing in my plant bed, Roger and his amazing reactions / warrior instincts / pure physicality would be restored, which I'm sure to the relief of the trees would result in relief in not having him whack them over and over as he tried out various battle cries. I thought about the best way to locate the glitter snow, and it occurred to me that rather than find snow and hope it was on a ley line, that instead I should look for a ley line and follow it up the mountain until I hit snow. Rather brilliant of me, I wasn't ashamed to admit. The trick then was to find a ley line, and for that I didn't need my eyes. In fact, they'd get in the way. Instead, I focused internally, paying attention to my intuition. While there are other methods of finding ley lines like pendulums and divining rods, they're just methods of focusing intuition. It did take a while of navigating the hills and terrain of the mountain while staying focused on the ley line, and in there as well was Mouse-Eye, who began telling jokes. It would have made things more difficult if I'd been laughing, but his jokes were so bad I only groaned. After finding a ley line, I then began following it. Unfortunately, they don't adjust course to help searchers navigate around sheer rock walls or through thick berry brambles. It took a while to finally reconnect to the ley line in a space with snow, but I found it, celebrated, and collected some. And celebrated again because who couldn't use a bit of victory dance in their life? However, victory speeches to phantom crowds of grateful townspeople saved from marauding hordes don't count. With the absolutely necessary reagent collected, I decided to look around and see if more potion ingredients were close by, which is how I noticed a cave. It was very nondescript on the face of it, but quite comfortable and cozy inside with mosses growing at the cave mouth and on the floor, which helps explain why a lost sheep might hunker down in it. But I said, hello, and things progressed from there, mostly due to Mouse-Eye's ability to speak, what, everything? Sheep, for sure. Anyway, it became pretty clear that the sheep didn't belong here. It wasn't sure where exactly it did belong, but it was able to give us a clue or two as to where to go, at least initially. And that was near the mountain, but a different face of it. We had a walk to get this sheep returned. I did have a bit of a quandary. Return the sheep or get back to Wacky Roger? The sheep won out. We picked our way along the side of Moonbreaker Mountain. There were animal paths that made things easier when they existed and headed in roughly the supposed right way. And there were some places that were more, I don't want to say precarious, but there were places that guaranteed the sheep hadn't come through here. At one point we came across a large goldrake nest. The birds weren't amused, especially when I helped myself to bits of their nest, not structurally important bits, and a bit of guano that was holding it together. They cried, swooped, pooped on, not collectible, unfortunately, and pecked at us. Thankfully, it was more to scare than to injure. I thanked them and left, although I don't think they accepted my appreciation. As we made our way, the sheep had this amazing ability to find candy rock and eat it. All of it. After it had eaten the fourth lump, I began to worry it'd go into some sort of diabetic shock. How could it eat all that sweet? It was, ugh. And it would have been nice if it would leave one piece for me. It did, eventually. I decided to hide it deeper in a pocket than I usually put reagents because there was no telling if Sheepy would suddenly get hungry for my piece. Clearly, with this sheep's ability to eat candy rock, it hadn't passed through this path, and maybe the sheep had been in a diabetic coma in that cave for a while. Maybe? We did eventually spot a farm sitting in a lush valley. Shortly after, we heard sheep calls and sheep dogs. The sheep I was guiding no longer needed a guide. It took off like a shot, glad to recognize its home. It took me longer to get there. As I got closer, a few children ran out to meet me. "Did you find Gertie? What's your name?" "Ma!" were a few things yelled out. As I walked towards the main house, the children followed me and continued to yell out questions. A middle-aged woman emerged from the house, wiping her hands on an apron. "Greetings. Am I hearing correctly that you brought our fool runaway sheep home?" I said I had, and that I'd found her in a Moonbreaker Mountain cave. "Is that a fact? I wonder what she was doing up there." I told her I suspected it was for candy rock. Sounds like her. Anyway, my thanks for the service. Do you live locally? I don't believe I recognize you." "I'm Mr. Sweetwater, the new witch near High Rannoch." "Are ya? Well, it's getting late enough that you shouldn't be traveling back. You'll twist an ankle or worse up there. You'll stay with us the night and can head back safely when the sun's up tomorrow." I started to refuse, but she insisted. "Don't fret for room or board. We got plenty enough of both. Have to, what with all the little ones. And it's what we've always done for the High Rannoch witch." "Oh, you knew the old witch?" "Sure we did. Didn't come often, but it was a joy to have her stay." I was given an honor guard. One child was assigned to show me, the others came and helped, to see me to a bedroom where I'd be sleeping with the girls, so I could clean up before dinner. It was tasty, and there was plenty, and by plenty I don't simply mean the food. The whole family, including the father and a couple of older boys who'd been working in the fields, were excited, happy, and laughing. I think my presence was an excuse to have a bit of a party. After the meal and associated cleanup, I insisted that I help. We talked and sang and danced. Somewhere in all that, I found out their family name is Bleater. I guessed sheep farming had been part of the family tradition for a long time. Also somewhere in there, I was introduced to a song they liked to make up for guests. Apparently the old witch loved it and would come armed with a verse or two. It starts like this. "She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain, she'll be coming round the mountain, she'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, when she comes." The she, meaning me. The next verse was, "She'll be bringing back our Gertie when she comes, when she comes." I'm sure you get the idea that it just repeats after the first stanza. And so on. I tried to make up a good line for the song. My creativity was aided with a nip or two of something very appley, very yummy, and very burny when swallowed. So I sang, "She'll be carrying a mousie when she comes, when she comes." All eyes turned towards me when I sang that. partly in a bit of shock, but mostly because Mouseye, the always watchful, the never seen, the little trickster, was dancing on top of my head. I think I'd had enough of whatever it was for the both of us. It was a delightful night. And overnight was unusual, given that there were several of us all sleeping together in the same bed. Between the long day, the celebrations, and everything, I fell asleep right away. I was told by one of the younger girls that I snored, but she said it was funny to hear, so it was okay. One early filling breakfast later, I was ready to go. Mrs. Bleeter handed me a small pot of something sweet. It would keep just fine for use in my potion. She insisted on contributing to the potion since that was the original reason I'd been on the mountain in the first place. I bid them farewell and headed out. It didn't take anywhere near as long to return as it had to get there. Not trying to find and follow ley lines can save huge amounts of time. But it was midday when I got back to my cottage. To the peace, the quiet, and the grunts of satisfaction from skewering imagined vanquished foes. I let him continue with his training session, I guess it'd be called, as I prepped and brewed the potion. It took seconds to mix the crushed rosehip seeds with the glitter snow, quite melted now, but still effective, and the added sweet from the bleaters. My warrior prince patient would have licked it clean, I think. He seemed as eager for sweet as Gertie was. Anyway, it was satisfying to see his bones finally settle down. The relief he was feeling was plain. His entire body relaxed. He even stopped stabbing everything around him. However, it was my turn to be uncomfortable. I knew he only charged 10 silver for a protection trip, and here I was about to charge him 30 for the potion, plus 4 for each of the 3 doses of sweet. 42 silver. That wasn't a profitable trip for him at all. Roger, to his credit, after he digested the cost, accepted it and paid. I encouraged him to let the doctor know about the additional cost of his healing and to add a term in his contract to include damages to person. I also felt bad when he told me he'd slept the night beneath a tree. He said he felt uncomfortable sleeping in someone else's bed, especially a witch's bed. It took me a minute to digest that, but I gratefully accepted his sacrifice of personal comfort. After he left, I got to work on the grounds. It wasn't that I'd not done anything on the land for weeks, but I wanted to get back to my usual routine. I finished up for the day and went into the cottage to make some food, nowhere near as tasty or as plentiful as last night's meal, which is when I spotted a note on the mantelpiece, with a gentle glow coming from behind it. That I decided would have to wait until tomorrow. Episode 12, Week 6, Rest Episode, Helping versus Rescuing. Early morning, the time when the transition from night to day hasn't started just yet. There's a stillness as night gets ready to recede. Day is busy making its coffee, stretching, getting ready, but it hasn't left the house yet so as to be known to the sleeping world. It's the hushed breath before activity begins. At least in most houses. Not this one. Not this morning, at least. In this one, this witch wishes she were allowed to sleep longer to enjoy the warmth of bed covers until dawn. I mean, dawn! It's not too much to ask for, is it? Apparently the answer is yes. Yes, it is. I know why I'm up. I'm not happy with myself this morning, and I know I should do something about it. I know this because this is the theme of so many thoughts pounding around in my skull. At least if I get up and start to do something, I can get my mind off my guilt. Perhaps even convince it to go away. Which I know full well it won't, but a witch can at least try. And besides, it's too early to do anything about it anyway. So I'll do something else, and maybe, just maybe, I'll work it all out. It didn't help that a presumed sleeping Mouseye just said, right after my last thought on the subject. As I got up and stretched, I saw the gentle glow from behind the note on the mantelpiece. That, I think, is worthy of exploration. It'll take my mind off of other things. And besides, if it's from Pip, I don't want to leave her waiting on a reply. My usual morning routine can wait. I really want to see what the note says and see what's glowing. Note to self, When trying to read a note, get the fire going first. It's amazing how much light there isn't in the early morning. Next note to self. In the dark, writing may not be visible, but it gives a much better perspective on anything that happens to be gently glowing. I set the note aside and saw what lay behind it. It's a small orb, tiny really, sitting on the mantelpiece, but not just sitting, more like gently pulsating. Along with the color changing intensity, the color itself seemed to shift, whites, blues, turquoises, more, and the sphere itself gently bounced. The harder I looked at it, the more movement I saw. It was mesmerizing. It was around that point that my lack of even visiting the privy started to catch up with me. I pulled myself away and got my daily routine done. Feeling much more comfortable and with the fire stoked, I was able to read the note. It was, indeed, from Pip. Yay! And it identified my new little glowing friend as a popalock, that it emits bursts of colored magic, needs feeding twice daily, and won't tolerate sun nor bugs. The note specifically says, "Sweet, that poem you wrote made me wonder, do we see the same clouds? I had a night bursting with magic last night, and we are hoping to save the popalock. Feed twice daily, no sunshine or bugs. Tiny bursts of magic, raw and magic. And our resident poppy gave birth. I'm sending one to you for safekeeping. I hope you enjoy its colors. Please send me other poems. I love reading them. You are a great friend. Love, Pip." And there is a bunch of art and drawings and all sorts of stuff. Feed twice daily. And I've had it for how long? It looks alive, at least. And with all the movement, I assume it's happy. And the note says something about trying to save this popalock. Save it from what? Simply dying? Or something more predatory? Or sinister? I'm going to have to write back and get some clearer instructions on the little thing. In the meantime, what do I do with it? I hoped Mouse Eye could shed a light on the situation. Mouse Eye? A little suspiciously, the sound of snoring began to come from his spot in the spirit house. "Mouse Eye," I said, a little louder. "Must I?" came the response, and then the suspicious snoring continued. "Is that where we are now? Preemptive must-I-ing?" "Mm-hmm." "Well, for now anyway, everything seems okay. What happens if I touch it? It's warm, not hot, pleasant. There's a vibration, subtle. The color changed slightly, perhaps a bit pastel-y. And when I went to lift my finger off, it stuck to it. Interesting. I brought it closer to my face. Hello there, I'm Sweet. I hope you're happy here in my cottage. I didn't expect what happened next. It floated off of my finger and landed on the spirit house. Okay, I guess it can take care of itself better than I'd originally assumed. And that's where I was as the sun rose. Happy, warm, enjoying a steaming tea, secure in my ability to help people, which brought back an uncomfortable thought. Why had I felt the need to add sweet to the potion I gave to Roger Rogerson? 12 silver worth of sweet. The sweet alone was more than Roger would have made from his guarding of the doctor. How could someone make a living if they had to pay out so much in a single treatment? Especially if a certain witch were to overmake a potion. Oh, the same thoughts that had greeted me in the dark were now badgering me in the light. There was no helping it. I had to make things right. And that meant a trip to High Rannoch. I did my best to rehearse what I'd say to Roger and what he might say in response. How angry he might be because of how much I charged him. How disappointed he could be in me for not being more thoughtful in my care, not being more helpful in my customer service, not being as useful a resource to the community as I could be. I must admit the discussions in my imagination turned into arguments, recriminations, accusations, rejections. I felt miserable. I wanted to turn around, go back to the cottage, and put a do not disturb sign just so as I could hide and never see anyone again. But my legs got me to the High Rannoch gate. Open, as always. Why are there walls if the gate is always open? I wondered. But that attempt at distraction was swept aside with visions of poor Roger eating a crust of bread and being thankful to the person who'd mindlessly cast it aside. Through the gates I went. The Copper Fox Tavern seemed the best place to start looking for Roger. Fussy was up and serving a family breakfast. I caught his attention as I walked in. "Mistress Sweetwater, what can I get you?" I swallowed, gathered my courage, and asked for Roger's address. "He's in the back. He's just—" "Thank you." I strode past him. "But, mistress, he's—" I ignored whatever he was trying to say. I was finally ready to do this, and if I stopped now, I might never be able to summon up the courage again. I went through the inn and out the back, following the sound of singing. Roger's singing. Meanwhile, I faintly heard scrambling behind me. I stepped out. Roger had a small bowl raised over his head. A very wet and entirely unclothed Roger dropped the small bowl onto his head, which is when Fussy caught up. "Begging your pardon, but he's bathing, miss." The tableau froze. Roger then said, "Have you eaten, miss? Fussy, would you mind laying a table for two?" I felt Fussy's arm wrap around my shoulders, steering me back to the common room. "He'll just be a minute, I'm sure. What can I get you?" It was difficult to think what with the new flood of mortification I was feeling. I just looked at him. "How about I get you the house special? Everyone likes it." "Okay, thank you," was all I could manage. A few minutes later, a still wet but very much clothed Roger joined me. He was smiling. We both tried talking at the same time, stopped, tried again at the same time, stopped. Our food arrived, which served as a pleasant distraction. I tried talking again, but Roger put his hand up to stop me. "I just want to say that when you came storming out and saw me washing, your face, priceless. I would have burst out laughing, but it's clear there's something on your mind, so let me shut up now and let you talk." He sat back and gave me the floor. I sat up, bent forward, and began. "Roger, I want you to know that I've been thinking about the potion I made you and its cost. I feel like I didn't take into consideration your living standards, and He held up a hand again. "I've faced fearsome beasts in my time, so just say what you need to say." I stopped. "Fearsome beasts? You doubt me?" "A little, yes." His smile grew, carrying levels of humor and abashedness. "Okay, so maybe not as fearsome as I might try to imply, but yes, I've been to places most folks haven't, so a few words don't scare me." He leaned back again. Once again, I had the floor. "Look, you make 10 silver on a guarding job. I charged you 42 for a potion. How can you afford to live if I do that? I want to at least refund you the silver I charged for all the sweet I added." And I started digging in my pocket. Roger stopped me and smiled. "I appreciate that you care about all this. I really do. You cared for me when I came to you, made a potion that, let's face it, I wanted to keep drinking long after it was all gone, and allowed me to stay at your cottage. Fussy tells me all the time that I should charge what I think is fair to my customers. Most times there's no trouble at all. This last time there was. So thank you for the offer, but I can't accept anything back that I paid to you." This I couldn't accept. So I tried a different argument. "Why didn't the doctor help you? Why didn't he—" The hand had gone up again. "But he did. It's just that I opted to not take his pills. And I'm glad I didn't. Your potion worked a treat, and I'm ready to guide and guard again." But how— Look, sometimes what's supposed to be a 3-hour tour becomes something more serious. I can honestly say, and I'm being honest here, that there have been times that it's only been my courage that's kept my clients from being lost or worse. And yes, in the great ocean of adventure, I can feel like a little minnow, but I never feel alone. I suppose shipwrecked would work better for this analogy. So whether I'm guiding a millionaire and his wife, or a professor, or whomever, I know it'll all be okay. And that you have proven yourself to be able to help me so handedly, that helps reinforce that idea. So, hand out of your pocket, please, and let's enjoy Fussy's house special. And then he whispered, "Make sure to compliment him on the food. He's fussy about how people perceive it." He smiled again, a little conspiratorial one. I returned it. The father of the family that had finished breakfast approached the table. "Roger, we're on for tomorrow, yes?" Roger nodded. "Hank, before you go, have you met the new witch, Mistress Sweetwater? Worked a wonder on me the other day." We all exchanged pleasantries, and then the father left. I looked over at Roger, who just shrugged. "Don't mention it, it's what I do." I felt more at ease in this minute than I'd felt since treating Roger. "I have to admit, Roger, I didn't see you as being, I don't know, you're energetic and enthusiastic, clearly able to take care of yourself from physical threats, but I didn't think of you as, business savvy." "So you thought I wasn't, what, smart enough to take care of myself?" When you put it that way." He crossed his arms in front of his chest. "Okay, fair thought. I wasn't the best student, but I'm doing well enough. Between Fussy helping me out and my adventuring, it's all good. So, you all good?" He reached across the table for my hands. I let him take them. He looked me in my eyes. "All good?" I felt so much better. I was lost in my relief. I heard myself say, "Yes, good." He released my hands, took a minute, then made to get up. "I've got to get busy, so I hope you'll excuse me, but do make sure to give the food 2 thumbs up." And with that, he left. Although I was tempted to linger, I decided to start making my way back home. The thoughts I'd had of checking in on my former patients to make sure they were doing well evaporated. The thoughts of going to the herbology school to, I don't know what, also disappeared. I don't need to check in on Francie, or the doctor, or Madame Hightower. I could care from my cottage, but I don't need anyone to prove to me that they're okay. I don't need to try to control the lives of anyone, except, of course, myself. I don't need to rescue anyone. What a relief. What a weight off my shoulders. I felt good. Who knew that witching could be such a complicated affair? As I walked back to the cottage, I wondered if the old witch had faced these same problems. Probably, I found myself answering myself. I wonder how she'd fared, how she'd managed all the expectations, the requests, the demands, the reasonable and the unreasonable, all the different ways life could try, could pull, could push, cajole. No wonder a witch's cottage sits a comfortable distance outside of town, and those walls, those pitiful walls trying to keep everything out. Or maybe just the harmful, the dangerous, the unwanted out. Ugh. Give me free access to wild lands any day. As I approached the cottage grounds, a dark shape flew low over my head, followed by an unspeakable greasy reek. I looked up as a harpy landed on a low-hanging branch. How to describe a harpy? To simply say that they are a combination of a woman, head and chest, and a vulture, all the rest, is like saying a giant explosion is a combination of a bit of fire and enthusiasm. Harpies are nasty. They stink, have mouths that would make sailors cringe. Let's face it, if there's a single redeeming quality, I'm not aware of it. How they've been appointed as the mail delivery service, I'll never know. "Hello, princess!" it shrieked. Did I mention they don't talk exactly? They only shriek. "You been expecting a package? Got your hopes up to actually receive whatever this is?" It held up a bit of card with a small bag attached. The thing to remember when dealing with a mail delivery, I think I'd experienced only 1 or 2 at my childhood home, is to not give the harpy any satisfaction in wanting the package. They usually get bored and drop it, sometimes in a convenient place, then leave. So I didn't give the harpy any attention, simply said no, then walked away. The harpy shrieked in frustration, then flew ahead of me again. "Don't you want this wood care oil, good for brooms and wands?" I forgot to mention that they'll typically read your mail. "No, thank you." They also don't like manners. It shrieked again. "Fie! On your head, then!" She dropped it, then took off. She did try to poop on me as she flew away, but I was able to step out of the way. One last shriek of frustration as it flew off, and that was that. As I picked up the bit of mail, I was grateful the harpy had been in a relatively good mood. One last thought dashed through my head. Why would a type of creature, one that only has human female parts, agree to deliver male? You'd think something with only human male parts, like a satyr, would be more appropriate. Then again, satyrs aren't big on schedules and responsibility. They just want to party all day, every day. The card was addressed to the High Witch of Rannoch, or current resident. On the back was a sales pitch by a newly established company looking to sell a better brand of wood soap to help keep a witch's wooden tools clean and weather protected. The bag held a small sample, formed into an easy-to-transport bar. Well, when I have a broom or a wand, this might become useful. For right now, however, it's simply something to store away. I opened the door to my cottage. The usual comfortable dark had been replaced with the glow coming from Popalock floating happily in the middle of the cottage. It's nice. I'm so used to only having light when things are open or the fire's going, or for special times, a candle's light. It's like a bit of fantastical living. What a luxury. However, it wasn't up to me if this lovely glowing orb stays or goes. I had to ask the house. I sat and thought, breathed and asked, and got back acceptance, even happiness that I was going to be pleased. I opened my eyes and found Popalock floating near my hand, which was folded in my lap. I opened it and allowed Pop to land on my palm. There was that sensation of warmth, of comfort. I could feel it gently melding with me, accepting my energy and offering me its own. I thought back to Pips's note and how she'd sent it here to save it. Maybe in Pips's land something would eat this. Whatever the situation there, I was going to take care of this one here. But I did need to send Pip a note. I gently let Pop, it felt okay to call her that, and she was definitely a she, but why I decided that, I don't know, float off, and I got my writing things together and started to compose. I'd figured at some point that if I was going to have a pen pal in the here yet not here, I'd better put together a small kit for writing. This is what I wrote. Hi, Pip. Thank you for the Popalock. I'm calling her Pop for short. She seems to like it here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to provide a food source for her, but she's glowing and floating so prettily that I think she's doing okay. And I'm not sure who or what we're trying to keep Pop safe from, but my cottage has already withstood a necromancer's attack, so if anything is out to get her here, she should be safe. What shall I say of who's come my way? The lovely one now known as Pop. Her gentle glow, a moon, you know, is lighting up the dark a lot. She floats so free and alights on me, never dims and never stops. She's found a home where she can roam, and the spirit house is also her cot. Mouseye, I believe, is willingly sharing. I think. Sweet. And since Pip has sent me some things, I thought I'd send her the wood soap. If I can simply order it and have it delivered, nope, check that. Ask Bob to have it brought in, then maybe where she is, they don't have it. At least not yet. So maybe I'm doing things differently than the old witch. Maybe she didn't have a Pip, or a Pop, or a Fen, and definitely not a Mouseye, but I have love and acceptance. What more does anyone need? Episode 13, Spring, Week 7, Cure episode. That which giveth, that which taketh away. The days are getting longer, the nights shorter. Nature is drinking up the sunshine, bringing life and activity to the land. Not to say that the land's been dead, far from it, but there's a noticeable difference in tonight's sunset than there was when I first arrived 7 weeks ago. 7 weeks. I can't believe time has gone so fast. And I'm certainly not the same person I was, bumbling into a role that, if I'm being completely honest, would have seemed an insurmountable challenge. And yet here I am. I feel like I'm at peace with things. I know there's more to be discovered, more territory I've yet to visit, more ailments that will need treatment, but I'm at peace with where I am and even who I am. Watching the last of the twilight dim, I felt like I'd been part of a daily ceremony, the changing of the guard from day to night. Oddly satisfying in its way, almost as if the desire to do morphs into the desire to rest. And that, after any day at the cottage, is a feeling I willingly embrace. I banked the fire, letting it sleep. It too would be called upon with the new day. Pops's gentle glow as it moved about the cottage, floating where it will or settled on the spirit house, was comforting. Mouse Eyes' usual spot was empty, but that in itself wasn't unusual. He would just as often disappear as reappear. Okay, that's obvious, I guess. What I'm trying to say is that Mouse Eye isn't tied to my side. Wherever he is, I know he's safe. And I hope he's not intrusive or indiscreet. Which brings my thoughts to Roger. Bathing. That was... I just don't need to see that much of anyone ever again. Chuckling to myself, and probably I'll be chuckling about it for a very long time, I sat in front of the spirit house, relaxed and breathed, and let the days' memories and labors release. I did wonder, as I sat, if when I sleep I somehow connect with the here yet not here. Is it somewhere you can go, much like up beyond the clouds in Madcap's balloon? Could a voyager find themselves here yet not here? What would that be like? How would it work? Could I package myself up, set myself on the mantelpiece, and end up at Pips's house? Could I go elsewhere? What would that be like? When I start to let my mind wander at night, like I let it just flies off in a direction, and I feel like I'm running after it, again, like Madcap's balloon, I know my sleep will be more active, less restful. I'll have cobwebs aplenty come morning, but maybe overnight I'll garner insights or inspirations or epiphanies. But none of that will come until I let my mind drift off with head on pillow. I close my eyes and doze off. Sleep envelops. And a knock awakens. Mistress? Igor? Pops's glow increased, allowing me to find my clothes and throw them on. Opening the door, I saw Igor's worried face, brows knitted, hands, all three, clenching and squeezing, always in motion. Please come in, take a seat and tell me what brings you here. He did as I invited, and then told me about Richard, Count von Rannoch, vampire, necromancer. He doesn't seem himself, and now he's saying he wants to watch the sunrise. He won't die, will he? I asked. No, but it certainly won't be good for him. Do you want me to tend to him? I'm embarrassed to ask, but yes, please, this is beyond me. I spent some more time asking about his condition, when it had started, noticeable symptoms, and Igor, being not just an assistant but one versed in science and observation, was a wealth of information. As I consulted the old witch's book, Mouse Eye sat down at the open page. I asked with a glance if he'd heard everything. With a small nod, he indicated he had. With a small shrug, I said I wasn't sure what it was, but tentatively pointed at an ailment description. With a small shrug back, he said my guess was as good as his, so let's run with that diagnosis for now. Or maybe he thought we were talking about something completely unrelated to the visit. Anyway, I thought about a plan of action for the case. I had Princess Toad mucus already, and what is it with so many reagents being slimy and gross? Mixed with cold rust, and luckily I knew where to get some in Heroes Hollow, it'd make a cure for the ailment known as loss of experience. I had no idea how someone so old and knowledgeable as the Count could catch something like this, but it made sense in all other respects. I grabbed the mucus reagent, and a few other things and made ready to go to the dungeon. I wasn't sure if I was more or less comforted that Igor would be joining me, but I figured at the very least he'd make for interesting conversation on the way. Such was not the case. Igor, despite appearances, could walk faster than was comfortable for me. I half-trotted to keep up, not leaving me with much breath for talking. I did manage to ask if the Count knew we were coming. No, but the master will appreciate your expertise when we arrive. From what I'd gathered about the necromancer's temperament when confronted with the unexpected, this wasn't a great idea. I tried to trust Igor's judgment. I'd almost succeeded by the time we entered the hollow. I opted to detour us to the armory, the site of my last cold rust harvest, to gather some before making our way to the Count's rooms. The rusting magical weapons and armor may be of no use to warriors, but it's a treasure trove of cold rust for me. Igor then led us to his master's chambers. It was a quick walk, again mostly because Igor was moving at a speed that would be a near certain ankle twister for anyone else. Maybe he found a way to distill some of the fairy's rat spit so that he could go faster. I felt my mind begin to wander, and I stopped it. This was no place to not pay attention to where you're stepping. Soon enough, we arrived. Igor bade me stay back a couple of paces, to announce me, I guess. I heard, "Master, Mistress Sweetwater is here to see you." "Why? For what purpose? And have you seen my book on theories of the beyond?" "Yes, Master. It's on your desk, Master. And no, I don't know why the witch is here, Master." Ah, yes, the book is here. Very good. And now if only I had my codex handy." "It's also on your desk, Master, next to the book." "Ah, yes, so it is. Good. I feel like I'm missing something." "Yes, Master. Mistress Sweetwater is here to see you." "Is she? I'm very busy. Have her, As they were talking, Igor reached for my arm, then gently guided me forward. Then another arm reached behind me and gave me a hefty shove forward on my back. I looked up into the eyes of a startled necromantic vampire. I did mention, didn't I, that his behavior when startled isn't exactly carefully considered? Today, however, was different. "Oh, Mistress Sweetwater, right? How unexpected." I turned to look for Igor. He was gone. Yes, I thought I'd check in on you. Check in on me? Why? Has Igor been gossiping again?" No, no. But he did say you were contemplating watching the sunrise, and I thought it'd be lovely to do together." "Did he now? And was I really planning to do that? Well, I'm sorry you came all this way, but I'm far too busy to be gallivanting off. Have you seen my book on theories of the beyond?" As I was about to point it out, I spotted Mouse Eye standing on it, but out of sight of the Count, of course, making danger motions, thumb drawn across the neck, glassy eyes with the tongue lolling, arms crossed in front of his chest making a big X. I walked up to the table, took the book. Somehow Mouse Eye disappeared, maybe as I blinked, pretended to read it, then said, "I think you meant to get it from the library, but you grabbed the wrong one. Let me get the right one for you." As I stepped out of the room, I heard Richard start talking to himself about finding another something or other. Igor was waiting. "Do you see what I mean? He's not right in the head." "Can I use your lab? I'm sure it's loss of experience, but I don't know how he would have contracted it. Unless... Where did this book come from?" "That? I'm not sure," which is odd. "An adventurer did visit a couple of days ago. I was busy in the lab, and I don't pry into the master's business, but I do catalog all the books. This one I've never seen. I wonder if the master bought it. It seems odd that he would, but then again... I wonder if it's a trapped book, like maybe you start to read it and instead of giving you information, it takes it. Does that sound plausible?" People think of necromancers as evil because they work with the dead in death. But this, to turn a book from a giver to a taker, that's real evil." Igor took the book. "I'll examine it while you brew." I just looked at him. You can be so certain and safe while doing it so fast? He looked back at me. You can brew a potion so fast and be certain you and he will be safe? Point taken. He laughed. Anyway, forewarned is forearmed. A few minutes later, we reconvened. We both said, "Is it?" then stopped. I let Igor go first. Trapped, as you suspected. The book itself is inert. You had to start reading the text in order for the trap to spring. He then looked at me more sharply. How did you know? I was about to answer when I heard a mousy voice behind me. I told her. Igor shot me an appraising look. That familiar is a keeper if ever there was one. Now, the potion? I held up the cup holding it. Will this restore him? I didn't know, so that's what I answered. Here's to hoping. He took the cup and entered the Count's study. Reading is thirsty work. Here's a refreshment. The Count, for his part, was standing in front of a tapestry. But he wasn't actively looking. The body was too slumped, the head not quite square. It was like no one was home. He clearly wasn't reading. He clearly wasn't doing much of anything. But he did take the drink without a word and downed it. And then we waited. The changes were subtle but added up to awareness being reawakened. Then, slowly, he looked at us. Sometimes vampires are depicted with red flames in their eyes. Other times they're shown with wolfish grins and protruding canines. I'd never seen the Count like that. Until this moment. What? The demand was directed at Igor. The new book, master. Where? Disarmed, in the library. The vampire then turned to me. You? I was speechless, frozen. The intensity of that gaze. It grabbed everything I was and blasted it aside. I just stood there, mute. Her, yes, master. Richard, Count von Rannoch, slowly approached me, never breaking eye contact. All I could see was his eyes, and beyond them, the void. He reached down, took my hand, and kissed it. You, witch, are worthy of the name. I'm indebted to you. My brain slowly dragged its way back. I just brewed a potion. He continued to stare through me. No, you returned me. Aside from your usual rate for the mundane task of brewing a potion, I am in your debt. The silver is a pittance, and you shall not refuse. The more laggard pieces of my mind started to recover. No. The Count's eyes blazed again. Before he could speak, I continued. I will accept that I've done you a greater service than simply treat a condition. And I accept that you feel indebted to me, but it's something I never intend to call. For me, there is no debt. The stare, that terrible stare, continued. But now I was back, aware, fully myself, and I was able to absorb the stare and withstand it, hold it, and even calmly return it. And he laughed. Never let it be said that witches are simply crazy women living in little cottages who mutter over steaming cauldrons. Then he held up a hand. I, for one, have never said such a thing. Others, yes, but not me. Of a sudden, he looked drained. Would you care to sit with me a moment? Apparently I need time to recover. Igor, some tea, please. Yes, master, with pleasure. The Count and I sat. He more reclined. Your predecessor, she warned me once about this, or something similar. You only have to get lucky once. You must remain perpetually vigilant. Oh, the tongue-lashing she'd have given me were she here. He looked deep in thought, formulating what to say next. She was something, you know, a force of nature. She, a witch working with all things from birth to death, and me, a necromancer working with death as birth. He paused. Then, they say opposites attract, but there was no way it would ever work. And then she went to the Imperial City. That stopped me. I didn't think he knew about that Igor had intercepted her letter to him. He saw my facial expression and laughed. Igor's protective, but that doesn't mean I'm ignorant. Your tea, master. Mistress? Thank you, Igor, said the Count. Should I track down the culprit, master? No, no doubt the poor fool was duped or guillotined. The real perpetrator will have clean hands. So we'll have to be more circumspect in our search. Yes, master. Igor left, and the Count and I talked for a while longer. At some point, I yawned. The Count reacted. Dear me, I just realized what time it is. You must be exhausted. Shall I have Igor prepare a guest room for you? It was tempting, but really all I wanted was the peace of my own cottage and the safety of the land surrounding me. So I declined, and soon after, headed out. On the way out, two things happened. One was that I passed by the silverleaf outcropping and gathered some. And then, remembering this unlucky fellow who'd bled to death trying to harvest it, I gathered some old blood from near him. Show me a witch who doesn't harvest reagents when they have the chance, and I'll show you, not a witch, but a crazy woman living in a cottage muttering over a steaming cauldron. Ha ha! I still can't believe he said that. The other thing that happened is that while I was walking past the jail cells and paying them no mind, I heard a poorly stifled sneeze. No, it couldn't be. I stopped and looked, and then I saw a figure huddled in a cell trying to hide. Show yourself, I said. I was calm, I was cool, I was collected, and I had a very interested vampire relatively close at hand if things went really badly. Hello? It said. He, I amended. He said. Let me guess. You gave a necromancer a book, probably not willingly, and now you are stuck here, scared and not knowing the way out. I did what? The panic in his voice spoke volumes. He didn't know what he'd done. Please, miss, I woke up here. I don't know where here is, but it isn't where I want to be. I won't hurt you. You're safe. Come on out, and I'll show you how to get out. It took more convincing than that, but he did eventually join me. I knew the way pretty well by this point, so it was a quick and easy journey to the exit. The feel of the nighttime air felt so much better than the dungeon's stagnancy. Oh, thank heavens, I'm out. Here, miss, this is yours. He shouted as he dropped a pouch at my feet and ran off. I picked it up, felt the weight, and heard the clink of coins. I'd count it later. My main thought in that moment was the hope that he'd find his way home okay. As for me, I went home, but instead of going to bed, I sat outside and waited. It didn't feel like a long time, but it gave me time to decompress, to process, to wonder, and to eventually watch the sun rise. Episode 14. Spring, Week 7, Rest Episode, Mouse Eyes' Adventure. I have to admit, I'm not quite sure how to talk about what I just found out. I'm not quite sure who I can tell. I want to tell someone, but have you ever had something that you wanted to say and that it makes perfect sense when you tell someone face to face, but it just loses its punch when it's written down? Well, I have. I want to tell someone, but there's no one here to tell because I have apparently a very discriminating social presence, meaning I'm pretty much left alone / avoided unless, of course, there's a potion involved. Which is why I'm sitting here at my small desk in the cottage, chewing on the end of my pencil, thinking about what to write in a letter to Pip. Of all the people I know, I think she's the only one who will appreciate the story. But that brings me back to wanting to tell the story face to face, maybe in a bit of a gossip session. Not that anyone gossips anymore. Oh no, it's all speaking truth and airing things out and spilling tea. But it's not gossip. Okay, I think what I'll do is relate the story on some paper here, and if I feel like it comes across okay there, I'll send it to Pip so she can be just as amazed as I am. Now, to compose my letter. Dear Pip, hi, how are you? How's everything in your neck of the here yet not here? You won't believe what happened. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to wait for you to answer the questions, and I'm supposed to listen and nod and pretend I'm not about to burst to tell you what I want to tell you. So pretend I did. But I think in order to really appreciate the story, you need a clearer picture of life here than what I've provided before. I live in a small cottage with Pop. She's lightful, by the way, and I do mean lightful. She's like my own private floating light source, like a very small sun, but with an automatic dimmer. And no heat aside from her gentle warmth when she lands on me. Thank you for sending Pop-a-lock here. we're all happy. And Mouse-Eye. Mouse-Eye. How to describe him? He's a mouse, for one. He's my familiar. And while he can often cop an attitude when asked to do something, he can also be helpful, and oftentimes in unexpected ways. For instance, so far as I know, he can speak to humans, bees, toads, and I'm pretty sure to Pop as well. One thing that he has a habit of doing is disappearing, often at very inconvenient times, like when I'm in danger of being eaten by a sphinx. Thankfully, it was a vegetarian, so the danger wasn't as grave as it could have been, but you get the idea. When he shows up after disappearing, I'll ask where he's been, and he'll usually say, "Must I?" I know I asked to call him Mouse-Eye, but I had no idea it'd be so close to what has become his trademark remark. Today he reappeared in his usual space in and amongst my spirit house, which is also where mail from you tends to arrive. Weird, yeah? Despite the fact that I've stopped asking about his solo travels, far and wide, to who knows where, I decided to show an interest in where he'd been this time. And he told me! That alone made my jaw drop. And maybe it's that fact alone that makes the story so amazing, that he actually shared what happened. At least I hope it's a true account. It'd be a shame if he'd just made it all up. I mean, would he make up a story? No, I don't think so. If he didn't want to share, he wouldn't. He'd change the subject or ignore me or say, "Must I?" I don't think he's interested in telling tall tales. It's too much work. So I'm going to believe this is true, and if it's not, well, I'll just deal with it then. Okay, look at me. I just looked and realized I've been babbling on without actually saying anything of note yet. It's like I think paper just grows on trees. And yes, I know it kind of sort of does. Okay, enough jabbering. To what happened. I'm going to assume you have a forest and you're here yet not here. I think I'll just write that as HYNH, which I'm going to pronounce in this version, here yet not here, for now. I hope you don't mind. In my version, it's called Glimmerwood Grove. It's a lovely forest, although I must admit I have an affinity for forests. My father's a woodcutter. He lives days away, but it's a forest not unlike the one here. Here, meaning near my cottage, not here like my side of here yet not here. Anyway, I went camping in there once and found a sleeping giant with the most fungus-covered feet I've ever seen. It was blech. I mean, I know we witches have to deal with the yucky and nasty parts of life, along with the life-fulfilling and satisfying ones, but still. Okay, I was supposed to start telling you the story and I got distracted again. This time for sure. Like I said, Mouse-Eye got back from another one of his solo adventures. It turns out he was exploring Glimmerwood Grove. While he was in there, he found a kind of open-air throne room. He said he just happened upon it, that 1 second he was stepping, or I suppose padding, through some heavy brambles and ended up stepping into this space. It was all light blue, apparently, sort of like if the sky had been molded into bricks. But it's also apparently old enough to be covered in hanging vines and moss. He said the weird thing was that it all looked so well tended. Sitting at the other end of the, I suppose it could be called a chamber, although I think chambers are supposed to have some sort of ceiling or roof over them. Anyway, at the opposite end was a throne. And apparently there was no doubting it was a throne because it was big, golden, and elaborate with carvings and ornate decorations. And sitting on the throne was an elf. Now, have I mentioned that Mouse-Eye prides himself on watching and remembering things? This time, however, the self-described watcher was watched by this elf as he looked around and took it all in. And, I guess, the elf was quite amused by Mouse-Eye's wondrous reactions to it all. "Welcome to my court," the elf said in greeting. "Hello," Mouse-Eye replied, and continued looking around. "I am High Lord Aeronil, and you are?" "Mouse-Eye. You can call me Mouse-Eye." "And what brings you, Mouse-Eye, to my court and my presence?" "Oh, nothing. I just stepped through some foliage and ended up here." "Ah," was all the elf said. "Were you hoping for someone in particular?" The elf's smile dimmed a bit. I'd hoped that... well, never mind. Mouse Eye insists that he turned his magnificent, soulful eyes towards the elf, and that was the reason he became more forthcoming. You see, I'd hoped someone would come and replace me here, and you seemed a likely candidate. But I thought you said this is your court. Technically it is. Presently. When my replacement takes over, it'll be their court. And you thought I was your replacement? The elf shrugged. Stranger things have happened. You could have been a carefully disguised elf. How long have you been waiting? The elf sat up straighter. Well, I don't know exactly. Mind you, when you're a member of a long-lived race, such as those of us from elvendom, long stretches of time can pass by seemingly in an instant. Mouse Eye nodded. Then he said, So how long was that? A long time. And you're the only one here? Yes. Yes, I am. The rear guard, I suppose, of our migration to a new land. And so you're waiting on a replacement from the new land where your people are now. That, or for help in moving the throne. It's quite heavy. Mouse Eye nodded in sympathy. Okay, well, I should go. The elf stopped him. Wait, would you tarry longer? I'll trade you a tail for a tail. That stopped Mouse Eye. Would you say that your tale is part of a much larger tale? The tale of history, I think you could say. The elf pondered it. Yes, I see your point. So, a portion of a tale for a portion of a tale. And would you also say that any portion of a tale, in terms of the tale of history, would be quite a small portion of that tale? The elf looked confused, but said, I don't know where you're going with this, but yes, my tale is but a very small piece of the great tale of history. So Mouse Eye said, Agreed. You give me a small piece of a tale, and I'll do the same and give you a small piece of a tale in return. Now, I hope you recognize that I've filled in the gaps a bit here and there because, as I mentioned earlier, Mouse Eye isn't always great with telling me things and can omit some details. So this conversation and agreement may have a bit made up, but in the end, Mouse Eye and the elf agreed to trade bits of a large tale. The elf told Mouse Eye about the history of Count Rannoch, the necromantic vampire who lives in a dungeon close to the cottage. It's called Hero's Hollow, and I can attest to just how hollow it is. I fell into a jail cell while on my way to the Hollow for the first time, and that was in my first week of being the new witch here. Oh, yeah, I've now been here about 2 months, so I'm relatively new still, but I've been learning so much and visited new places and treating all sorts of conditions. It's been fun learning and doing all that. And, oh, right, the Count. So it turns out, a few hundred years ago, there was this pig farmer. He'd raise pigs, take them to market, or sometimes stay home, you know, all that. Nothing extraordinary. Some days he'd have plenty to eat and could even afford roast beef, while other days were lean and there was no food at all. But this one day, when he went to the market, the slaughterhouse took his pigs but refused to pay him. He threatened to go to the police, which is when the mage, who'd been hired by the slaughterhouse for just this sort of thing, said he'd make sure that no one would ever trust him again and that he'd forever after be a creature of the night. He ran all the way home, making some sort of strange wee-wee noises, but the transformation took hold. He was a vampire from that day forth. He knew he could never live as a pig farmer again, or really as a farmer at all, so he just ran and wandered. Eventually, he found the dungeon and took up residence there. He became a necromancer to try to find a way to reverse the vampirism. This, by the way, is the same vampire who tried to force the spirit of the land under my cottage to bend to his will. For his efforts, the land quite ably defended itself and defeated him, so he only ended up with bruises. Anyway, after the elf told his tale, Mouse Eye said, That was quite a piece of tale you gave me. I hope you'll find the piece of tale I give you is satisfactory. And then he plucked a few hairs from his tail. Here's a small piece of tail in return. Now, I've wondered at time or two during my own adventures if perhaps I was pushing my luck in dealing with those I encounter. But this was, oh my, I can't even bring myself to imagine being that bold, and yet there he was in all his mousy glory, holding a bit of fur out in trade for the story. The elf, for his part, took the proffered hare. You have played a trick on me. Were I not so bored, I might have taken offense, but this was the only entertainment I've had in ages. I don't know if Mouse Eye went anywhere else after that, but as I said, he eventually came home and told me the tale and the tale of the tale. Whew. I see I'm getting close to the end of my paper, so I'll close this for now and hope to hear from you soon. Your bestie, Sweet. After a moment's consideration, I folded up the packet of paper, addressed it to Pip, stretched my cramped writing hand, and wondered what she'd think about all this. And I'd have a thing or three to ponder over the next few days. So I hope you enjoyed the 4 episodes strung together like that. And yeah, I'll be putting together another 2, 3, 4 of these, however it works out. I'm not quite sure. I didn't do the math before I sat down. But yeah, we'll be doing these synopsis videos. Let me read to you videos, and yeah, there'll be a few more before the series comes to an end. Until then, bye for now.